Hello and welcome to Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. Today, our very special guest is Tom McCalmont of Pear Power. So welcome to the show, Tom.
Good to be here, Sean. Thank you.
Yeah, I remember meeting you a long time ago. I think I was working at Fidelity Roof Company and going to every possible event that I could in the Bay Area, just, trying to get a good foothold on the industry, somewhere like around 2008. And I met you. I think I might have been sitting next to you at some table, and I can't remember which table it was. But
well,
nice
to
awesome. Talk to you again. Yeah.
I've been in solar for, like I said, at least 25 years, has started several successful companies during that time, and just love solar. So it's a pleasure to be with you again and talk about it.
Yeah. So maybe tell us about your successful companies. And I remember when I met you, you were working for a company that just must have been by coincidence was named after your last name, McCalmont Engineering. And now you're working at Pear Power.
Yeah. So actually, my first solar company was a company called Regrid Power. And we were re-engineering the grid by adding solar to it. That was a solar installation business. We sold that in 2008, and then we started McCalmont Engineering, which still operates today.
Did you sell it to Solar City by any chance?
Real Goods.
Real Goods. Okay.
Yes, sold it to Real Goods, a company that unfortunately no longer exists. But then we started McCalmont Engineering. McCalmont today still does large-scale design work in solar. Nationwide does commercial, industrial, and utility scale power plants, clean energy storage, microgrids, EV charging, all of that. And Pear Power actually spun out of McAlmont about 10 years ago because we had the novel idea, let's charge EVs using solar energy. And so that's what we do today.
That sounds crazy. How could you dare do something like that?
I know.
I saw that was really weird, and it was in PV Magazine, so it must be true. And PV Magazine is pretty reliable. But it was about a Mercedes that has some kind of paint that's 20% efficient solar that's super lightweight, and you can paint the car different colors and things like that. I don't know. It sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, well, you can put solar on a car, and they do that in different ways. That's a perfect example. The energy density of solar today isn't enough to power the vehicle fully. So it would help maybe charge it during some times of the day, but it wouldn't be enough to drive the vehicle. So
maybe if you just only drove 2 miles a day.
Exactly.
That would work good for you.
It'd be enough for that. And if you parked it in the sun, the rest of the day.
Yeah, then I get out and turn it with the different sun angles as the sun's going through the sky. And I'll park it on a hill so it's facing south.
That's right. Exactly. All of those things.
But I mean, it looked really, really cool. But sometimes that kind of stuff just misguides consumers because they think, oh, they're going to just paint my house with this. I'm going to wait for that to happen.
Yeah, exactly. People don't understand power density very well, and they don't understand electricity very well. And so they get confused by things like that. So.
Yeah. And then you got to figure out there's going to be some kind of catch. Like maybe it adds $1 million to the price of your Mercedes, which is no big deal for most Mercedes owners. They've got the bucks.
They've got the bucks.
Do you have a Mercedes?
I do not. No. But I'm on my 6th EV.
Okay.
And
wow, 6.
Really love EVs. So.
Okay, cool. I remember I got a hybrid car in 2002 when the Prius came out, the Generation 1 Prius. And then when I bought that, I was like, the next car I get is going to be an electric vehicle. And then nobody believed me. They're like, oh, you're crazy. And I remember too, when I got that car, people would stand around it in parking lots and go, look at this marvel of engineering.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, about 5 years ago, people were standing around in my car going like, what are you driving this old piece of junk for?
Yeah.
And then that's when I upgraded to a used EV. So
good for you. Yeah.
So I was right. The next car was an EV. So
that's right.
Yeah, so maybe tell us a little bit more about what you're up to over there at Pear Power. I noticed that the logo is like a pear, like the fruit.
Yeah, well, it's a pair of pears. It's a pun, kind of a fun logo. And we developed that name because we pair solar energy with other things. And
like pear energy? I wonder how much energy is in a pear. Or
well, that's a good question. Yeah.
Like you should know that. I mean, if your logo is a pair of pears.
I should look that up. I'm sure Google AI could tell me.
Let's kind of guess. I know that a cheeseburger has a loaded cheeseburger has about a half a kilowatt hour. So a pair of pears, maybe something like I don't know, like 200 watt hours, let's
And
say.
there we go. It sounds good. It works for me. So yeah, so when we started, we thought, there's a lot of opportunity to take solar and use it in really creative applications by pairing it with other things. Our two colors are green and blue, green for the sun, for solar, blue for other forms of energy. And what we do today is we develop microgrids. For people who don't know what that is, that's a limited grid that combines different forms of energy to power different types of loads. So you can take, for example, solar energy or battery energy storage or grid power and combine those in interesting ways to deliver loads like EV charging. And so that's what we do today. We call it microgrid EV charging, but we also can power all kinds of loads through that microgrid concept.
Yeah. And I've heard so many different definitions of microgrid. So the NEC has a definition of microgrid where it can't be isolated. It has to be connected to a grid. And then I think maybe Triple E or something like that says you can be isolated from the grid. And then there's not really a definition of how big it could be.
That's right.
So maybe it could be something I could carry around in my suitcase, like simple grid tie battery backup type of a system, or perhaps a microgrid could be a small town.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, it can be all of the above. I mean, a microgrid, and it can be all the things that you said. It can be connected to the grid. Usually, if microgrids are connected to the grid, they have the ability to island. And what island means is if the grid goes away, if there's an outage of some sort, that microgrid can still function on its own. Or they can be completely off-grid. So, for example, think a remote cabin that there's no utility power. That can be its own microgrid. It has solar energy from the sun, battery storage, and load in that house. So all of those are good examples of microgrids. And any size, that's right.
Pretty cool. And so you're working with EVs. And what do you see happening with EV technology? I know the thing that I've been really interested in is coordinating EVs to be the battery for the house, or at least to be like most of the energy storage on the house, the four-wheeled type of battery that you could go to the store and pick up some kilowatt hours while you're picking up your pair of pears at the grocery store.
Absolutely.
And are you seeing that happening much on your end?
Let me talk about a couple of things. Let me start with one you mentioned, which is pretty interesting, which is technology where the vehicle can be a source of power. It can be bidirectional. Instead of just being something that's charged, it can charge something else or deliver power to something else. That technology is referred to often as V to G or V to X. V to X means V to something. V to G means vehicle to grid. And it's a great idea and a great technology, but the vehicles that are capable of it today are very limited. There aren't very many vehicles that can do it. More and more manufacturers are starting to provide that capability in the vehicle. So in the future, I think it's going to be an important source of backup power to your house, for example. So good application.
Do you think it's a conspiracy that these vehicle manufacturers haven't done this from the beginning?
I think it's because they're worried about the warranty of their battery. And so they don't want to overuse the battery or have the consumer overuse the battery. I think that's what the
Sounds like a good excuse to me, because the warranty could also incorporate how many cycles or how many kilowatt hours pass through that battery.
Yeah. And I think as time has gone by, the vehicle companies have gotten more comfortable that the batteries are really rock solid and they can support a warranty even in a bidirectional way.
Yeah, or the warranty doesn't just have to be miles and years. It could also include kilowatt hours passing through.
Absolutely. Yeah. But let me talk about another application. And this is really becoming very important because what people don't realize, EVs charging is actually a fairly significant load. It's bigger than like even just a level 2, like a typical charger you would have in your house, might consume as much power as all the rest of your house does on a normal day. So it's a significant load. And so that means that grid constraints are becoming increasingly a problem. People find that they want to put in EV charging in situations like for a fleet or for workplace charging, and there just isn't enough grid power. And so the solution that we deliver mitigates that problem. We augment that available power with solar, and we can also time shift that power from one time of day to another using batteries. And that combination allows us to support many more ports or many more charging positions than you'd be able to do with grid power alone. We typically think it's about a 6-to-1. So we can do about 6 times the number of charging positions with the capacity of one charging position.
Yeah, because people want to charge their cars all at once, all at the same time, like when they show up to work or when they go home.
Exactly. And, if they all show up at work at the same time, like workplace charging is a good example. They all show up at work, they all plug in. If all those chargers start at the same time, it's going to be very expensive for that site host. And it's also going to be a huge demand on the grid. But if those charges are managed throughout the day, we can charge all of those vehicles throughout the day and get them exactly what they need in terms of range replenishment and not have that spike that would be very expensive at the beginning of the day.
Another way of perhaps doing that would be the cheap way doing it, maybe, is just doing level 1 charging. So just right where you just plug into a 120 volt outlet, just like coming out of your house, and then it slows it down instead of all at once.
It's true. Yeah. And level 1 is perfectly adequate for homes. There are proponents of level 1 at workplaces, although it's so slow that it might not be enough for many consumers. Like what people tend to want and this is true of the more you drive and the more you become aware of this, they want that range replenishment to get to their next destination. So if they're at work, they want enough range to get home. If they're at home, they want enough range to get back to work the next day or to get to retail. And so that translates usually into by something like 30 to 40 miles of range per trip or per day. And level 1's not quite up to that task often. And so that's why level 2 is actually better.
A lot of times, though, too, it might make the difference, like it doesn't get you all the way round trip.
It might get you part way, right.
You're going to show up there with partial charge.
Right.
And most people could probably do the whole round trip without even charging going to work. One thing that I've noticed, too, is like going to the San Francisco airport, which I'm sure you've been there before.
Many times, yes.
You're another person from the Bay Area. And they have car chargers there. And I used to go like, great, it's free charging with paid parking. And I go on a trip. And I come back and my car's all charged and I can even see that it's charging when I'm on the plane coming back and all that stuff. And now the last 10 times in a row, I haven't found a charger because everybody's got an EV now. And if they just did level 1 charging and just put a little plug in the wall, and maybe they could still have level 2 chargers, but then when they run out, if they had level 1 chargers, people are gone for long enough where if they were down to 0, they could charge it fully, no problem. My friend's a pilot for United. He flies the 787s, and there's a parking lot for pilots, and that's what they do. They have level 1 charging.
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. For an airport, level 1 would be more than enough because you're gone for a long time. That's exactly right. So
maybe they could even have level 1/2.
Right. Level 1/2.
I mean, seriously, then they could give you 7 amps or something like that at 120 volts. Then they could even charge more cars you know.
Yeah, well, the minimum in the charge standard, just for edification, is 6 amps. So 6 amps at 120 volts is the minimum that you could do. Anything less than that, the cars won't accept. So
the cars won't even accept 5 amps, huh?
Yeah, the standard cuts off at 6 amps. So
that just sounds like that's not freedom. I should have
it's true.
the freedom to do 5 amps.
I didn't have anything to do with designing the standard. So.
I wonder, so if I went to my car, I know I could set the amps. If I tried to set it really low, it wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work. The lowest it'll go is 6 amps. So
that's weird. Okay. Darn those standards people.
That's right.
Taking away my freedom, which actually I think would be a good thing in a lot of cases. So that's kind of neat with all the stuff that you're doing with electric vehicles. And I guess other things too. Are you working?
Yeah. Well, so let me talk about some of the other things. So we just announced a really interesting product. It's with a partnership of a company in Australia that has made an unfolding solar array. So that array comes packaged in a container. You open up the container and you can unfold this array and provide instant power. And we call that product Pear Phoenix.
Pear Phoenix.
Yeah, we've paired our control system and our batteries and intelligence and our AI software with their containerized solution. And it's a terrific approach to a quickly deployable microgrid. It's a microgrid you can put in place in a single day, have it up and running, generating power. It can be doing things like providing power for construction, where often they need temporary power. They're often using diesel generators. It's expensive to run the generators. It's a fuel cost. It's not environmentally very good for the environment. And so we have an alternative that we can deploy that provides the power needs to power that site during the construction, and then that can be folded back up and moved to another site.
So what kind of specs does Pear Phoenix have? Like power and energy for the solar
Sure.
and the storage?
Yeah, so there's three configurations of solar: 23, 47, and 70 kilowatts
70 kilowatts that unfolds out of a container.
out of a container.
That looks like a big
Yeah.
phoenix bird. Is it the reason that it's called phoenix because it has wings when it comes out? Like,
No, it's not wings. It's the name of the company that we partnered with.
and did they rise from some ashes like the phoenix
Exactly.
myth?
But 70 kilowatts is a big size. You're exactly right. That's enough for a significant amount of power. We have different power configurations that can pair up to that. Anything from 240 volt, which is like what you have in your house, up to 480 volt three phase, which is like what a commercial building would have. And so we can power any set of loads using different configurations of the power container.
Great. So is it like a container that you've modified?
So we deployed their container, and then of course, there's a Pear. There's a second container that contains all the power electronics, the batteries, the intelligence, the controller. All of that is in a single container. And so you pair the two together, and that provides you a power plant.
Wow. And are they 40-foot or 20-foot containers?
20-foot container on the solar and a 10-foot container on the power.
Wow. And so you're fitting 70 kilowatts that unfolds like a bird's wing, maybe, or something like that in a 20-foot container.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, and the 70 kilowatt version, I think it's roughly 125 solar panels. So
Wow. And are you involved with mostly the electrical engineering part and not the unfolding?
yes, so we do all the electrical engineering. We certainly have a great deal of expertise in that. We also have developed a really nice control system that uses artificial intelligence. And the reason that's important is because in a microgrid, the most difficult challenge you have is managing those energy flows. You want to make sure that you can always deliver what the customer needs in terms of load and do that with the resources that are available. And so throughout the day, those resources may change. The sun isn't always equivalent brightness. At nighttime, there is no sun, so we have to pull energy from the battery or from the grid. The grid may have a limited capacity, or it may only be available at certain times of the day. So all of those parameters are taken into account by our AI software, and it intelligently makes decisions to optimize the flow of energy to those loads to make sure that a customer gets a great experience.
I would think that some of the new high-paying jobs in the solar industry would be for people that would be able to make this happen, like people with the skills. Like you don't just go to AI, go, make me this. Like I heard it on this podcast, do this for me, AI. And it doesn't just, it's like you're going to be working with probably a team of people. Some of them are going to be the coders. Some of the people are working with AI. Some of the people are like you, the electrical engineers, knowing which way the power needs to flow. And are there other people on those teams?
Well, you're
too?
right. And we have some very talented programmers on our staff that really producing the magic that makes this all work. The other interesting things that we've done to kind of go along with this, we have a really interesting design tool we call Periscope. It's spelled
Pear.
Peair, a scope.
Not like the old company Energy Periscope, which I think is not around anymore.
Right.
They're not so fruity sounding.
Periscope lets somebody design a system and take into account those energy flows. It's very quick to use, very intuitive and easy to understand, but it lets you think about how much grid do I have, how much solar do I need batteries, and what loads am I trying to power? And so just I'll mention to the audience, go to periscope.com and you can sign up and use that design tool. And then we also have some really innovative things like we have a AI-assisted customer support agent. Her name is, of course, Paris. And Paris is the best support agent you have ever talked to. She never gets tired. She never gets grumpy. She knows everything.
And she doesn't get wasted like that other Paris?
She doesn't get wasted. She knows that she knows everything there is to know about your situation and your chargers, and she will help you diagnose the problem and give you instant help.
I think I already have a crush on her. So.
Yeah, it's tempting. And if you talk to her and you say, Paris, can you speak to me in Japanese? Or can you speak to me in German? She'll just instantly switch and start talking to you in her language or your language. So,
Okay. Paris, I'll meet you in Paris.
Exactly.
Well, that's all pretty neat.
We interrupt you for a very important announcement. Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast has been brought to you by Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. That's right, Sean White is sponsoring his own podcast, and he wants to remind you to go check out some of his classes. You can go to SolarSEAN, that's solar, SEAN.com, and then click on the links to check out his classes. You can check out his heat spring classes, and you can also hire him to teach classes for you, like at your company, something like that. Now back to the show.
How about the virtual power plant angle?
So virtual power plants, for those in the audience who don't know, virtual power plants is a way to sort of aggregate power and provide it across multiple installations. It's something that we can do as well, but we think of the microgrid itself as the core of that virtual power plant. So it's really what you want. So
great. So what's your focus too? Like all different size systems? Do you have a range?
Yeah, so we have 3 different products. I mentioned Pear Phoenix, which is the deployable microgrid. We have another fast deployable microgrid for EV charging we call Pear Tree. And Pear Tree is a pop-up solar canopy that can serve 2 EV chargers. And it can be deployed anywhere. Again, it can be installed in a single day. And so it's perfect for off-grid applications like at a park or a beach where they may not have EV chargers. Or it can work in a situation where there's a little bit of grid power, maybe from a lighting circuit, and I can tap into that lighting circuit to provide help to the solar that Pear Tree provides to the vehicles. And then we have a third product we call Pear Fleet, and that's a larger scaled microgrid that can charge a fleet of vehicles. And so it would typically consist of a larger solar canopy, like you would see in a typical parking lot, paired up with EV chargers and energy storage to charge a large number of vehicles. And we've deployed those for some really mainstream customers. We recently did a webinar with Intuit. Intuit deployed 24 of those chargers at their San Diego campus. And we operate those chargers with very, very little grid power and almost entirely from energy with the sun. So, wow. But those are the 3 products: Pear Tree, Pear Fleet, Pear Phoenix.
And so the Pear Tree is an off-grid solution? Off-grid only?
It's off-grid or grid connectable, either one. Yes. So like I said, if there's a lighting circuit nearby, like a light pole, we can pull a little bit of energy from that. If that's not available, it can be purely off-grid.
Okay. So I live out in this place called Canyon. Have you ever heard of it?
Where is that?
I'm making a solar training center out here. It's between Moraga and Oakland.
Oh, sure. Okay.
But anyway, there's a park here that used to be my family's land, but our cousins sold it to the park district. And there's an EV charger that doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because it doesn't have any Pear power.
I mean, it probably has no grid or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's like they installed a charger because it was in the plan, but somebody forgot to make the grid connection, I think is what happened.
So that would be a perfect place for a Pear Tree.
And what do you think about the thought that there's so many broken EV chargers out there? Is there a solution for that?
Yeah, we're very concerned about that. And I'm glad you asked that question because I'd love to talk about this. You know, the states, you're correct. There's a lot of broken EV chargers, and the state has set a mandate that the minimum threshold of reliability should be 97%. And my attitude is that's not enough. That's 11 days of downtime per year.
And that's like, that would be amazing if we had 97%.
Exactly. And if the gas station you go to was down 11 days per year, you wouldn't go to that gas station. So it's not acceptable. It needs to be like 99%, not 97% or 99.9.
Do you know what it is? I mean,
it's less, for most manufacturers, it's less than 97%.
It's probably like 50%. Probably or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. For us, with Pear Tree deployments, we're at very close to 99, and we have had them out in the world now for a few years. And so we're very committed to having reliable systems. And it really requires 2 things. It requires connectivity. You have to know what's going on with your stations. So all of our stations are connected. All of them have cell modems. All of our chargers can be interacted with on a daily basis. We collect data every second. It's uploaded anywhere from 10 to 20 seconds in the cloud. And so we have data on those systems. We know if they have a problem immediately. So connectivity is very important. And number 2, you have to design in reliability. So many of the manufacturers think, oh, I just designed the charger and I hand it off to the customer and I'm done. No, you have to design in reliability right from the beginning in that product so that you can do things like remotely reboot it. And that's required to maintain it and keep it operational. So we do both of those things. And as a result, we have very high reliability.
Why do you think that there's such low reliability? Like, I know that going to, say, Pier 39, where I have a sailboat, and I go in there and they have a EV charger and it barely ever works.
But yeah, to address your question at Fisherman's Wharf, it's for the reasons I stated. That so many of the manufacturers don't have connectivity. They don't know if their chargers are up or down, so they can't do anything about it. And they haven't built in reliability. They haven't built in that ability to reboot the charger remotely. And since they haven't, if the charger goes down, it just stays down. And it's really unfortunate for those manufacturers who don't do that.
Yeah, and then I've noticed like there's a Whole Foods out there in Lafayette, and it's always down too. It just seems like I just give up on trying to charge there.
It's a
and
shame.
a lot of times it says it's up on the apps and things like that, so the
it's not.
connectivity is working. But the little plastic part where you stick it in your car, the connector there is broken, or things like that.
No, that's right. It's not good.
And I guess one way they could tell is that like, well, nobody used it today. There's probably something wrong.
Yeah.
But it almost seems like that there's people are not making money off the charger, so they don't have any incentive to keep it going.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem as well. I think there's a business problem there. There are companies out there that have been given high incentives to install equipment, but have not been given the same incentive to maintain the equipment. And that's really unfortunate. And, public policy people should think through the problem. If you're going to award a contract to somebody to install it, make sure you award a contract for them to maintain it as well. So
yeah, and it's probably like they're like, okay, we're building this building. We need to have a certain amount of EV parking spots, and there we do. We met the quota, and then we're out of here.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And nobody's there to maintain it. So if it breaks, it stays broken. Yeah.
Maybe that would be a good job for somebody, is to go around and find these broken chargers and then find out who's in charge of them and then repair them for them.
Yeah. Well, we'd be happy to replace any of them. So, and we're doing that as we talk to customers. Because with our contracts with customers, we provide the equipment and the installation, but we also make sure that we have a maintenance contract with them. So,
Great. Okay. Let's see. And what other things do you want to talk about?
well, I think we've covered the major topics. I guess if you wanted, we could talk a little bit about the industry and how things
Sure.
are changing, if you're interested in that, or your listeners would be.
Yeah, everybody's definitely interested in that. I try to be optimistic, so whatever gets thrown at us, there's some kind of silver lining somewhere in the future, maybe not immediate future. We were having dinner last night with some people that were coming into town for the big CALSA meeting tonight.
Yes.
That I know I'm going to see you at. And we were talking about how perhaps, some of the stuff going on in the industry will weed out the weaklings and make the industry stronger.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think, we're actually, the prospects for solar, no pun intended, are extremely bright. And, I just read a really good book that I'll recommend to your listeners, How Solar Energy Became Cheap. And it was written by Gregory Nemeth. He's a professor in Wisconsin who's been studying solar energy for 20 years. And he talks about all the ways the industry has grown just terrifically over the last 20 years. And he makes an interesting prediction in there that solar energy will be the number one source of electricity worldwide within the next 10 years. I think he's right.
I can believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the industry's grown, in my 25 years in the industry, it's grown 30% per year. An industry that grows that fast doubles in size every 3 years. And so the industry today is 500 times larger than when I started 25 years ago.
Wow.
So I'm very optimistic. There are a few political headwinds in the US, but those aren't shared worldwide. The rest of the world is still growing and very rapidly adopting solar, which means the prices will continue to come down. And data center growth is growing rapidly because of AI deployment. And those companies need energy. And the fastest energy you can build is a solar power plant. And so that's going to continue to push the industry forward.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, and then perhaps, the stresses that are put upon our solar industry will make it less expensive.
Yeah, it will continue to get absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate to have incentives cut off so quickly, but to your point, I think it's going to make the industry healthier over time, and those that survive will be strong companies. So
yeah, that's one thing that I've always kind of campaigned for, is to not end an incentive suddenly.
That's
right.
It
just makes sense to do it gradually.
That's right. Yeah.
And a lot of times they do tend to end suddenly. And so it's just like a little shock there. But if you kind of plan your day or your year around that, like for me, some of my classes have been canceled because a lot of it goes through grants, and a lot of the grant funding for things has been turned off.
Okay.
And so I'm writing books and tuning up my classes, doing more podcasts, and I'm keeping very busy.
Yeah. And, just to comment about the EV industry too, I feel the same is true. The EV industry, like I said, I'm on my sixth EV. I had my first one in 2011. I'm never going to go back. I love the cars. They're better driving experience. They're quieter. They're more efficient to run. They're cheaper to maintain. And so I think as people you have one yourself, as people try an EV, they realize it's a great experience and they're not going to go back. And so the industry will continue to grow.
That seems like you've changed cars a lot. 2011 to 25, 6 cars. That's kind of a lot of cars.
About every 3 years.
Uh-huh.
In the early days, I leased them, and so I had to turn them in at the end of the lease. And more recently, I've purchased them, and we have 2 cars in the family, and so
Okay.
it's 6 for 2 drivers. So
It's not like they're all breaking or something.
no, not at all. I've had good experiences with all of them. So
Great. Okay. Do you have one that's able to send electricity back to your house?
I do, yeah. I have a Cadillac Lyriq and a Chevy Equinox EV. Both of those are GM cars, and both of them are capable of the V2G. Previously, I've had Chevy Bolts, Nissan Leaf, Jaguar I-Pace, all very good cars.
And so is your car able to output power like a generator, like it was on a
It
construction
is,
site?
yeah, that's right, yeah.
And what will it do, 120 and 240?
It'll do 240, yes.
So I have a 2011 Nissan Leaf. Is like a car that I recently bought for when my brother comes into town and helps me with construction.
Yeah.
And it's got about 35 miles of range. So maybe what I'll do is when we run out of battery, I'll give you a call and you could come and top me off.
Yeah. Well, your Nissan Leaf, believe it or not, is capable of V2G. It was one of the first cars that was capable of it. I don't know where you get the equipment for it, but if the equipment's available, you can do it with that car.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons that I got it. And I went to the Wallbox headquarters in Barcelona.
Oh, sure.
And they had a whole bunch of Nissan Leafs. And rather than upgrading their service and getting a new transformer and spending all that money, they decided to use their own technology. And they just got a bunch of Nissan Leafs, and that keeps the building going as their company grows.
That's terrific.
Yeah. And maybe they won't be able to let people drive cars as much as they grow more because they'll need to stay there and keep things topped off. But,
right.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, good. It's been great talking to you, Tom McAlmont. Let's do it again sometime.
Likewise, Sean, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I will see you again tonight at the CALSA dinner. That's the California Solar and Storage Association. And while we're at it, donate a whole bunch of money, everybody, to CALSA. They're really cool. They've been a pioneer in, creating solar policy since the days when Tom was getting into the industry, when probably over half the solar in the United States was in California, if not even Northern California, 25 years ago. And so you've seen a lot happen. So I want to thank you for making all of this happen, because when you do a little thing 25 years ago, it kind of magnifies. And you showed that it was possible, and you made all these different pathways for people to, have solar be cost effective on their buildings and in fields and all over the place with your electrical design. I know you're a professional engineer, and you've made a big difference in the world. So thank you very much.
Sean. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk.
And we'll put your links to where to find you. Do you want to mention like Paired Power, the website?
Yeah, so Paired Power is paired, P-A-I-R-E-D, power.com. And as I mentioned earlier, if you want to use our design tool, that's periscope.com. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, let's go check that out. And thanks for listening to Shawn White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. To find out more, go to SolarSEAN.com and learn about solar and get yourself smart like Tom McAlmont. And someday you too will be in the industry for 25 years. Woo!